Hey everyone, welcome back and thanks for stopping by Underground Upholstery. Today, we're going to be going over 6 of my favorite features on this Juki LU-1508 industrial sewing machine. Now the first thing I want to talk about is going to be the integral bobbin winder on the Juki, specifically the Juki 15 series of machines, the ones with the front-mounted internal bobbin winder. Now in the past, when it comes to bobbin winders, I've typically been a big fan of the side-mounted units, mainly due to the simplicity, the ease of use, and the adjustability for setting thread tension and just the general overall operation of the side-mounted units. It's really straightforward and it's a simple system and it works. Probably the biggest advantage to the side-mounted bobbin winder is the fact that it's out of the way. It doesn't interfere with any of the thread that's going to the actual needle of the machine, and there's less moving parts. It's very simple to work on, simple to adjust, and it's all around just a easier system to use than some internal bobbin winders. Now taking a look at this FAF 1245 sewing machine that we have, it's a very similar design to the Juki 15 series. However, the biggest drawback to this setup is the fact that we don't have great access or visibility to the internal workings. Should a part wear or should an adjustment, need to be made, we're just not going to have the same access, which to me is the biggest drawback. That adds a layer of complexity to the design that, in my opinion, is just unnecessary. Now taking a look at this typical industrial sewing machine that we have, there's going to be a top mounted bobbin winder. Now we do not use this bobbin winder and we have a few of the components removed. This is in part due to the thread going to the needle of the machine tends to get caught in the mechanism for the bobbin winder, causing the thread to at times break or us to have significant thread tension issues if we're not closely paying attention and making sure that there's no thread getting caught in the actual mechanism of the bobbin winder itself. Now, as I mentioned in the previous segment, one of the features that sets this Juki and Juki 15 series sewing machines apart from other manufacturers and brands is the fact that there's almost unrestricted access to any component of the sewing machine. There's a lot of removable hatches and removable covers that pretty much can grant you access to any component at any time. This sewing machine is incredibly easy to work on and easy to replace parts on should you ever have to. Now, as you can see, by simply removing the 6 screws that hold this top cover on and then 2 additional screws holding the oil wick reservoir in place, I can have access to almost any component in a matter of a couple minutes. Now, this is a really nice feature, and it especially helps when ensuring that the machine is properly oiled and ensure that should there be any problems, you can really have eyes on what's going on inside the sewing machine to fine-tune things and make any adjustment as needed. Now that the top plate is removed, we can see that we have 2 screws holding the oil wick reservoir in place. We're going to pull those 2 screws out and then carefully remove the oil wick reservoir just simply by lifting up on it. Once that's out of the way, we're going to have full visibility of the internal workings of the sewing machine, as well as access to the entire mechanism for the bobbin winder. This is a really nice feature that no other sewing machine has. Looking in here, we're just going to see how the bobbin winding mechanism interacts with the main drive shaft of the sewing machine to spin the bobbins. There's going to be a more detailed overview on how this actually works later on down the road in another video. Taking a look just one more time from the top of the sewing machine with the plate removed, we can really see how much access we have to all the internal components. On the left hand side we have the timing belt, we've got some oil wicks, just all the components are readily accessible, and should we ever have to oil anything or make any kind of adjustments or do any troubleshooting down the road, this is a really nice feature that in my opinion is worth it. Now on this FAF 1245 that I have, the only access points we have inside of this machine are from the 2 rear inspection panels. That's it. The same thing goes for this typical machine, as well as most Conso sewing machines, Singer sewing machines, and any other sewing machine that has the traditional design. There's just not great access to the internal components. And one last look over here at the back side of this Juki 1508. We have two removable panels as well, very similar to the other sewing machines. However, these inspection panels are much larger than on the previous example. So we're going to go ahead and remove those and just take a look inside. One last look here into the back of the sewing machine, and we just see how much access we have to all the components, and this sewing machine is really nice to work on in comparison to some others. Now, the first thing I do whenever I get a sewing machine in is remove the faceplate, and what this allows me to do is I like to manually lubricate all the internal components in the head of the sewing machine at the end of each day. These are the high wear items and the items that really take a beating on a daily basis. So it's important to make sure that everything is properly lubricated, inspected, and clean. Now, the only downside when removing this faceplate is that it allows dust and debris into the head of the sewing machine. This is where on the Juki 1508 that I have here, this has a nice plastic covering, and the cool part about this is that it can open and close as needed. While you're sewing, you can keep this cover closed, keeping all the dust and dirt and just things that are in the air outside of the machine. But when you want to inspect it or lubricate something, you can easily just pop this magnetic cover open and have access to whatever you need. It stays in place, and it also keeps everything clean, and it's just a very nice feature that I'm glad that this sewing machine has. So one thing that really impresses me with this sewing machine is the amount of oil wicks that it has to ensure that all the components are continuously lubricated. Just like a car engine that requires oil to keep running, so do these sewing machines. There's a lot of very high wear items and a lot of metal on metal contact that require just proper lubrication in order to ensure the longevity of the machine. These machines are investments, so it's important to make sure that they are lubricated at all times, and these oil wicks do a really good job just ensuring that that is happening. So that is something that Juki really did well on these 15 series sewing machines. So one really important feature that this sewing machine has is the dual thread tensioners for the upper thread adjustment. By having two thread adjusters, it really gives me the opportunity to sew with a wide range of thread thicknesses. So with any sewing machine, it's nice to be able to sew a wide range of fabrics and use a wide range of threads, and this feature really allows me to do that. I can go from sewing a nice decorative top stitch to something more delicate, all on the same machine within a matter of minutes. So to me, this is a very nice feature on this sewing machine, and I really enjoy having it. What you're going to commonly find on almost all industrial sewing machines, Jukis, Pfaffs, Singers, Consos, the typical, is going to be the single thread tensioner. Now, this design has been around for decades and it works very well. However, in hindsight, after you get used to having the dual adjustments, switching threads is almost seamless. And here's just one more look of the adjuster on my typical and on the Pfaff. Now, the final item that I'm going to cover on today's video is going to be the oil catch pan. Now, every sewing machine has one. However, there's some features that I particularly like about this one. So the first thing that I want to talk about with the oil pan is the fact that this has a separate tray designed to catch the drippings off of the bobbin hook and the hook assembly. This catch pan also incorporates a separate oil collection reservoir, so all the remainder of the oil that drips off of the sewing machine flows downwards into this little reservoir, and it collects all the oil, so when it becomes full, it's very easy to clean. You just unscrew it, empty it out, and you're back on your way. Nice and simple. And once again, everyone, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it informative, and please leave a comment or a suggestion down below. Let me know what you think or what you'd like to see in the future. And As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you back here soon.